Welcome to the first Smith Alumni Spotlight. This first one is going to be all about hospitality. We have four incredible gentlemen from the University of Maryland joining us for this panel on hospitality. You have myself, Sam Panich, also from the Smith School and University of Maryland, with my co-host, Parker Yablon of Elevation Nation, also went to the Smith School and University of Maryland. We got a lot of Terps here. Parker, let's hear about the panel.
Yeah, so first we got Miles Grossman, graduate of University of Maryland in 2018 and now works for Fisher Brothers. We have Rahul Vinod, the founder of Rasa. He graduated from University of Maryland in 2011. We have Jared Nozick, who is the Chief Marketing Officer for Versus, graduate in 2018. And then Luke Watson, the CEO of Timber Pizza, also a graduate of 2018. We have an exciting conversation for you today, all about hospitality. So, gentlemen, let's get into it.
Good to see everybody. My name is Jared Nozick. I graduated from the Smith School in 2014. I was a major in marketing. I am now the Chief Marketing Officer at Versus, which is a hospitality and marketing company based in DC. I am lucky to know everybody on this call, and excited to chat hospitality in Maryland post-grad.
Luke, thanks, Luke. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you guys for setting this up, and thanks everyone for being here. Excited to talk hospitality, and always excited to talk pizza. My name is Luke Watson. I graduated Smith in 2018. I was a marketing major. Started at Timber Pizza about 3 years ago as their CEO and owner as well. We are a neighborhood pizza shop, so we have restaurants and a catering business as well. We're rapidly expanding, so we opened 3 restaurants last year and have three or four more new ones opening this year. So really excited about our growth, really excited about hospitality, and love being in the industry and excited for this conversation.
Thanks, Luke. Rahul, you want to go next?
My name is Rahul Vinod. I'm one of the co-founders of Rasa. Rasa is a Indian fast casual restaurant brand based here in Washington, D.C. I graduated from the Smith School in 2011, studying finance and operations management. My business partner, Sahil, also graduated from the Smith School, graduated in 2012 with a degree in operations and supply chain. Today, we operate 5 fast casual restaurants, started in DC. So we have 2 in DC, 1 in Maryland, and 2 in Virginia. And excited to chat with everyone here.
Thank you, sir. Last but not least, Miles.
What's up, everyone? How's everyone doing? Miles Grossman here, another alumni of the University of Maryland. I studied communication, Spanish, and business there. And upon graduating, I knew what I wanted to do. It was in real estate and hospitality. Fortunately, found a great position with the company that built Mall of America. They were building that 2.0, the next version of that, called American Dream, right outside New York City. So I found myself working with a lot of creative entrepreneurs in the hospitality space, with restaurants, nightclubs, retail, and across the board. But hospitality has always been super important to me. Always loved to throw a good party, host a good party, attend a good event. And hospitality really comes down to taking care of people that you're hosting. And so whether you're a restaurant owner, you own a venue, you're hosting a venue for the night, for your wedding, whatever it may be, hospitality is all about bringing people together for great experiences. And I think that's something that we all feel really strongly about doing here.
Absolutely. And with all those intros, it sounds like everybody was trying to make me hungry this morning. We're talking about incredible restaurants that folks own, bars, nightlife, places that people are partnering with in the restaurant space, hospitality as a whole. So I'm going to kick us off with one quick question, and I'm going to have Jared answer this one. Jared, I know when you were in College Park, it looked a little bit different than it does right now. But did you have a favorite place that you used to eat or hang out at on campus? I'm curious.
I do, and I'm going to be completely honest and transparent. It was definitely RJ Bentley's, the Lug Nuts, best of all time. Spent a lot of time there. Actually had a lot of business come out of there from relationships that were made. So that is hospitality in a nutshell. But, I think I've told a lot of you guys, but, my career in hospitality really started at University of Maryland, and I give it a lot of credit for kind of what I'm doing now. And, I definitely got to find my footing in hospitality at Maryland, which I would love to talk a little bit more about. But, it's cool seeing everyone on this call and how we're all still connected somehow through hospitality. And Maryland is really the glue for all of that. So I think this chat is definitely due a beer at Bentley's at some point in the next month or so.
I mean, RJ Bentley's it's a great spot, a classic Maryland staple. I think we all have had many amazing times there. Luke, what about you? Curious, pizza guy. There's got to be some pizza spot that inspired you to go into the pizza industry, right?
Yeah, I mean, well, University of Maryland has a lot of pizza options, which is great. I certainly was a Bentley's fan as well, but the cheese fries at Pizza Mart were enjoyed on many, many occasions, usually on my way home from Bentley's. But yeah, certainly love their cheese fries. Seeing Blaze open up and their success. But yeah, I mean, understanding, I've been a pizza guy my whole life. Pizza Fridays were me and my family's thing, as I think a lot of families have that tradition. But movie night, Blockbuster, pizza, that was Friday night for me growing up. And so, pizza's always been a big part of my life, and a big part of bringing my family together. And I think that's the most exciting thing for me is providing people a space and a product and an experience that can bring them together, whether it be with their families, with their friends, coworkers, etc., with their communities, that they choose to be a part of. So that's the thing that I love about Timber Pizza. That's the thing I love about restaurants and hospitality in general.
Rahul, for you, I know you didn't start Rasa right out of college. You actually went into, was it Big Four, I think, right?
I actually went to investment banking.
Investment banking.
Sahil was at the Big Four out of college.
Okay, so were you not thinking hospitality after graduation?
So before I answer that real quick, Luke, I love you and I love Timber Pizza, but no shout out for Lido Pizza. Like, come on, guys. So that's my go-to favorite
I miss
pizza.
Mattsy's as well. I know there's a lot of great places. I said.
But yeah, so in terms of my background and even my business partner Sahil's background, hospitality, really flows in our blood. We're second generation restaurant owners. Both of our fathers actually went to hospitality management school in India, and that's how they met. They both independently came to the U.S. In the mid '80s, before kind of teaming up together and opening up their first restaurant together in 1991 in Rockville, Maryland, called Bombay Bistro. So quite literally, since the day that Sahil and I were born, we were in and around the restaurant business and the hospitality business. We learned how to walk, how to crawl inside of Indian restaurants, and that kind of shaped our career trajectory a bit, because throughout our entire lives we spent introducing people to Indian food and to Indian culture. And in the same way, everyone on this call is so excited to bring new guests into their space, make them feel welcome, have them try new drinks and food. We were kind of doing the same thing at a different level, where people weren't even familiar with Indian food at all. People often, even at the University of Maryland, would tell me, "Hey man, I really like you, I just don't like Indian food. I don't like spicy. I don't want to have to run to the bathroom afterwards. I don't like curry. I don't want to smell like onions." People would tell me all sorts of stuff. And Sahil and I would drag those friends to our father's restaurants, and every single time they would leave almost evangelized from that experience. Our dads would keep sending different plates out, and that experience of them tasting so many different flavors. And how can you use food to build a community and just bring different people from different backgrounds, different ages, all together to enjoy one plate of food? And so this idea for Indian fast casual was definitely something that Sahil and I talked about when we were in high school. But as everyone on this call knows, it takes a lot of work, but also a lot of capital to be in the restaurant business. And, when I was 17 years old, Sahil and I were like, "Oh yeah, maybe we should do this." And our parents were like, "That's cool, but you guys are going to go to college." We both did enter the corporate world, and, did the corporate grind for about 4 or 5 years before kind of coming back to this idea that, was kind of our calling, in a sense of how do we continue to take the food that we grew up with, that, we're familiar with, and just how do we make it easier for people to enjoy.
It's an incredible story, obviously one that Parker and I have been privileged to hear, and I'm so glad you shared that origin. And I think you guys are both, we're missing Sahil on this call, but you both are very lucky to have fathers that mentored you and you were able to learn from them. And I think in the spirit of mentorship, I want us to think back to our time at the University of Maryland in the Smith School. You know, some of us were able to find incredible mentors, professors, advisors who helped shape our careers. I know for myself, Professor Gershberg, I took her class twice, and Mike Perkson, I took his class, and that was truly impacted my career and who I became as a young businessman. So I'm curious, you guys thinking back, throw it all the way back from freshman year all the way up through senior year. Was there a mentor that you had, you know, academically within Maryland or even in a club outside of academics at Maryland that really shaped and impacted your career in hospitality? I'll let whoever wants to talk on that one talk.
I mean, I can quickly speak to that. And, you know, I had a lot of great professors at the University of Maryland, but I actually think the biggest impact on my career was being a part of a small startup in college. And so I was part of a company called VentureStorm. Their goal was to connect engineers to, you know, people looking for engineering work for websites, things like that, for apps. And so, you know, I worked with some amazing guys there, Taylor and Tommy Johnson, and then Tyler Dank, who have all gone on to be very successful in their own right. I know that, and all, you know, all University of Maryland guys, but you know, working with them, I think, one, they're very inspirational. They continue to be because they're so intelligent and driven. And, you know, I really absorbed a lot of that. But more than anything, actually, that experience made me realize I hate technology. I am not a tech guy by any means. And I think that I wouldn't have realized that, or maybe I wouldn't have realized that quite as early if I wouldn't have had that experience that, hey, what works for me, and the reason I love pizza and hospitality as well, is one, I love the people aspect, but two, I like that it's tangible. You know I get ingredients, I make dough, I serve you a pizza, and I get, you know, I get money for that. And so I really like being able to fully visualize the process. You know, obviously within hospitality and restaurants, there's a million different things, and technology is a component. But what I realized early on, because I had that experience, is I need something tangible that I can work on. So, you know, in terms of what I learned at Smith, is being able to be connected with people like that, and at University of Maryland in general, really gives you the experience to understand what you like and what you don't like. And that's a critically important thing to do early on, so that you can start your career at least having a baseline of, hey, this is what I enjoy and this is what I'm good at.
Miles, any experiences maybe during college, during your time at the University of Maryland, that you were able to learn and fail and learn from those failures and successes that helped you get to where you are today?
Good question. I'm actually looking at two partners right now, Jared and Parker, both of the two collaborators that I've hosted events and worked with on some startup experiences. So I guess I'll talk about a failure. So Parker and I, one day we had a great idea while we were running the show at Envoy Now, which was a college campus delivery startup that would help bring Chipotle and different, you know, food to different dorms. We wanted to take it a step further and bring some sushi burritos from DC, which is about 30 minutes away from the University of Maryland. So we didn't really think much through. We started taking pre-orders. We ended up taking over 600 pre-orders. We struck a deal with the venue to give us a little bit of a margin and give us a discount. And then we obviously charged a delivery fee in exchange for me driving my car and literally filling my Jeep truck with 600 sushi burritos. We were super excited. We did this first thing in the morning at probably 10 a.m. And then one thing that we didn't really think much about was the refrigeration of this raw fish. So fortunately, no one really called and complained, which I'm shocked about. And we didn't have insurance. We didn't have anything. But we literally one day, and I want to say it was in the summertime, it was like, you know, September, early on in the season, and it was hot out. So we literally had a truck full of sushi burritos just sitting in tinfoil, waiting for people to come pick them up. And some people didn't come till 6 p.m. So, I mean, imagine that sitting out in the heat for 12 hours. Somehow we haven't gotten any calls from people who got any issues from that. But I do remember me and Parker looking at each other like, how did we not think this through? Like, what were we thinking? Were we ready to do something like this? And I think the beauty of entrepreneurship is just jumping in sometimes a little bit premature and before you're ready. And then sometimes the lessons that you learn are through the failures and the experiences you gain through making a mistake or doing something. Fortunately, there weren't extreme repercussions for our mistake, But we did realize that at the time, and if we were ever to do something like this again, we'd be much more prepared.
Sushi burrito day. I'm really happy I didn't partake. So
Well, I think I had a couple because there were some leftovers. Maybe, Luke, you ordered one, but you never ended up picking it up. But I think, Miles, to your point, it goes to show that we were thinking so much on the front end, just getting the burritos into people's hands, going to pick them up. But it's a full operation. There's stuff that happens after the fact. We pick up the burritos. Now we have to go to a place. How about that line that people are waiting in line for an hour to get and pick it up? And in the hospitality world, you guys need to think about all of the things, the start of when someone walks through the door to when they leave, but also everything that happens before and after. So Rahul, I'm really curious, running Rasa, you got 5 locations in DC. How are you approaching that operation every single day? Because there's, I'm sure, a lot happening.
For sure. Yeah, no, and I think I love that story that Miles just shared, because I think, everyone on this call has some, origin kind of startup story of when they were first, you thought you were ready, and then you quickly got, slapped in the face and realized, oh my God, I'm not ready at all. And I think, we've come a long way with Rasa since we first started 7 years ago. But just sharing a quick anecdote of when we first started, we spent a few years working at our father's restaurants in the kitchen because we hadn't had that experience before. We thought we were ready to open. We're like, okay, we hired a bunch of people from Chipotle. They know how to work at fast casual. Like, this is going to be easy. And the first day the doors open and there's a line around the block, and we have all these small recipes that are on my phone in the notes app, and I'm scribbling them on receipts and then handing them to people to execute the receipts, and they can't read my handwriting. They're for 5 pounds of eggplant. We need to be doing 30 pounds at a time. And we were just so unprepared that, we had to stay until 2 or 3 in the morning every day. I had to get my dad a hotel room above the restaurant so he wouldn't have to drive back to Gaithersburg and, come help us in the morning. And so I think that's how we started, and that's how it was for definitely the first few months, where it was kind of all hands on deck. And I think the biggest thing that's changed between then and now is just, how do we really think about as many systems as we can, and then also how do we know that, hey, something is going to go wrong and we're just going to have to roll with it, right? You can try as much as you want to plan ahead of okay, here's all the different scenarios, and if you're not ready to be nimble and not panic and stay calm in those moments and know, okay, something is not going to go wrong. I mean, something is going to go wrong. It's not going to go how we want. We have to accept that's going to be part of the process. I think really shifts the attitude. And then for us, it was really about how do we find the right people on our team who share that same attitude, right? And so that way, if you hire someone who has worked at a Chipotle, no shade to them, they're a super successful company, but they have so many processes and systems that you don't really have to think to work there. And I think where we started, and I think where a lot of the other people on this call as well, is that we're more dynamic and kind of newer businesses, and so we need smart people who can fit into a system, but also we need people who can think on their feet and think for themselves. And I think we definitely shifted how we were hiring, our team. And then over time, we've, continued to try to build more systems to try to put a little more structure in place that allows our team to succeed.
Great story. I think obviously a couple things you hit on there, Raul, operations, so important in the world of hospitality. But one thing in particular stood out to me is you kept bringing it back to people. And it's obvious by this panel, you guys have no personality and can't talk at all and don't love entertaining and hosting and showing your personalities and letting them shine. So I'm kidding if you guys can't pick up on sarcasm that are watching this at home. Right. Being a people person is so core to the root of hospitality. And I think you guys are such great examples of kind of sharing your hearts and your souls and your passions for what you're building and why it's important to you and your stories. And I think that comes through to not only everybody out there listening, but the people that work for you. And so I'm so impressed by always showing your personalities and putting people first. And speaking of people, Jared, this question is for you. The University of Maryland has an incredible alumni network, Smith School as well, with great people, right? You brought all these amazing people together. So I was curious, with people at the center of your mind here, how has the UMD alumni network itself connected you to some incredible people, and how has that shaped your career in hospitality?
Yeah, important one, because I think this call is such a microcosm of what the Smith Alumni Network can do. I mean, we're just sharing little stories. I'm sure for the next hour we could go back and forth, but for me personally, just the example, I sat next to Luke in marketing classes when we were freshmen and talked about how we were going to start businesses one day. My office was coincidentally in Rahul's office, and we would eat rasa twice a week for free, and I'm a huge rasa fan because of it. I got the tour from Miles in American Dream on a golf cart and rolled a roller coaster because we reconnected post grad. And Sam and Parker, I'm lucky to have met you guys because I saw you were doing really cool things with a lot of Terps, and I'm super proud of you guys. And we're all on this call now in a similar field. And I have so many other examples, and I'm sure everyone on this call does too, of when I was in school. You don't really think about this, and like you're in this class with this guy that's doing this cool thing, but as soon as you graduate, I think it's like a lights on switch. Wait a second, this is my network. These are people that I'm connected to somehow. There are ways that we can help each other. And I think that's the core of hospitality, at least on the corporate side, is how are we helping each other win and grow? And I think everyone on this call has done that collectively. And there's so many other groups of Terps that are doing it. I think the awareness about what's happening with the alumni network is super important. There are resources. There are ways to get involved. There are events. There are panels. The one thing I've picked up on is everyone wants to see the school grow. Everyone wants to see the school win. Everyone wants to be connected with these people that are doing amazing things. I hope there's people watching this right now that didn't realize there were 4 founders with a ton of restaurants and venues and, spaces in DC that are Terp led. I think for me, especially, it's really cool. I have, 4 incredible Smith alumni on the Versus team who it's really cool that we're all connected by Maryland. And to your earlier question, Sam, I have to shout out Professor Mary Harms. I think some of you have probably had her or know of her. Absolute legend at the Smith School, but I was lucky enough to keep in contact with her through all of undergrad, through postgrad. And, the second I told her I was starting a company or we were starting anything with Versus, she was such a resource to me and sent internship letters out, connected me to students, connected me to, hey, this person has a music thing going on. Can you talk to them? Since then, it's been so beneficial just keeping in contact with professors, but also the students in the next generation that's coming up doing really cool things too. And that's all driven by, Smith alumni. So I think this is the first of hopefully many of these spotlights, but I think it's really important for people to just know there's Terps doing really cool things out there. There's a lot of really cool people doing a lot of really cool things. And it's up to you to get involved. It's up to you to send an email, join the Smith Alumni Network, follow on social media, send a message, hit someone up. Hey, we were in classes together. I saw you were doing this, you were doing that, because that core identity of being a Terp, leading fearlessly can create so much business, so much opportunity. And I think this call is just an example of that happening in real time right now. So would love to hear from the other guys just a little bit more about what their journey post-grad is like. And if there's any of these other stories of I connected with this person from Maryland and, we're still all connected here and there, because I think it is important for people to understand.
Yeah, and I can go right into that and say the first job that I ever got out of college was working at Marriott International in their Bethesda office, at the corporate level, which, is pure hospitality, one of the best, if not the best hospitality companies and largest in the world. And throughout my interview process, 2 of the people that I interviewed with were Terps. Which immediately helped. And before I received the job, I ended up meeting one of them at a basketball game at University of Maryland. So, it was University of Maryland, I look at it as the reason, I got that job. And I wouldn't have been there, wouldn't have had that opportunity without University of Maryland. So, yeah, it's been instrumental to me. And then the amount of countless people that I talk to now, my current business partner now is a Terp. And, it's a really, really great opportunity to meet people and leverage that network. And I think what anyone listening should also realize is like people want to help. It's always this very intimidating thing to reach out to someone. I don't want to bother them. I don't want to annoy. I love when people reach out to me. I love when anyone reaches out to me, but especially a fellow, Maryland alum. I'm always willing to talk. If you're in college now, I'm always willing to talk. And I think, it helps. I know it'll help you. I know it'll help me, and I know it'll help the Maryland, alumni network, which I think is what we're all about here.
I think we can all agree that we've had a vast impact from the incredible people we've met both on campus, off campus, post college, and whatnot. And a big part of this conversation is just networking in general. And Miles, I look to you as like an expert in networking. The amount of people that you know and how you stay connected, but even beyond staying connected, helping people feel that genuine connection to what you're building, both personally and professionally. What advice do you have to people who are listening in on how to maintain a genuine connection with someone that you're trying to network with?
Well, I think it goes back to two things. The first is a lot of people look at networking like a job, like a duty, like an obligation. I prefer to look at it, which is the truth for me, as a passion. I love people. I love learning from people. I love collaborating, brainstorming, engaging with strangers, new friends, old friends, everyone. So I think if you can, this is another quote that's people who are interesting are interested. So if you're actually able to find something or someone that you're interested in, then you can use that to really care and want to reach out and learn more and gain knowledge and gain connections. I was fortunate that at a pretty young age, my grandfather, he developed a shopping center. And I saw that and I was like, wow, this is so cool. I was running around. My grandfather is talking about how he determined where he was going to put which tenants, and the restaurant goes here and the shop goes there. I thought that was the coolest freaking thing. And then, when I was in college and had the opportunity to get into that space, I sought out the company who was building a project that instead of looking at it as a job, I looked at it like a passion project, something I wanted to wrap my arms around, even for free, without getting paid necessarily. And obviously, the compensation is a bonus, but I felt like I was working on a project that every day I woke up and said, wow, I get to call restaurant owners and retail brands and nightclubs, collaborate with these interesting entrepreneurs, learn about their stories, right? Like there's a lot of podcasts where people interview entrepreneurs. I feel like I get to do that for my job informally because I'm learning, Rahul and Luke are perfect, exactly what I'm looking to get connected with are cool, young, hip restaurant entrepreneurs that have awesome brands that they're growing. They've got fascinating stories. So when I jump on a Zoom call with somebody like these guys, I'm not like dreading it. I'm actually excited and engaged. And then when they tell me something cool and interesting, I'm going to make sure to follow up a couple weeks later and, talk about the sports game that we were talking about or find what we connected over. And I think the key is first finding something you're passionate about and other people that share that passion. And then networking with them won't seem tedious, but it'll actually be something that you're engaged and interested in, just in your own right.
I think that's a great piece of advice. I'll, echo everything you said, that if you can enjoy connecting with people, which again, if folks listening are trying to get into hospitality, I would say you probably want to make sure you like people and enjoy interacting with them, because that's going to be a lot of what you do. I think that was great advice. I'm curious, I'll tell a quick story. I actually went back to College Park this weekend. I hadn't been in a really long time. Went back and I went to the Smith School and walked around, which I feel like we should probably keep those doors locked. It didn't seem very secure, but I was able to get right in and walked around and reminisced. And I was curious for you guys, who has been back to College Park? Who has been on campus? Have you seen how much it's changed? It's been pretty incredible, the transformation. And I think it just goes to show people are investing money, effort, energy into the University of Maryland, and it is growing in really exciting ways. So I guess what I'm really trying to say is, when are we getting a Rasa and a Timber Pizza on campus? But who else has been back? What have you seen that's kind of surprised you or been different from when you were there?
Yeah, I can jump in here. I had the opportunity to go back to the University of Maryland this fall after not going there for several years. Especially after college, I moved straight to New York, and it's just crazy to see not only the development around the campus, but even within the campus, and also where they're spending their time and money. I saw the whole new innovation campus that they have there. Is they're really trying to focus much more around startups and putting the right people together and resources. And I think that's really incredible, because when I was there and, I graduated in 2011, there wasn't really much in terms of entrepreneurship. I'll be honest. You took your finance marketing, accounting classes, and like everyone was just gonna kind of go through that Smith portal to like hire Smith and like find a job, and like that was kind of the thing. And so I think it's really cool how they're getting different startup founders in there involved in different talks and even networking events. I was at a networking event this summer, and I think both Jared and Luke were at the same event in downtown DC at Eagle Bank. And it was just great to see people from different alumni, from people who graduated in 2011 to 2018, and people who graduated in like 1990. And they all were there because they cared about the university. They cared about innovation and entrepreneurship and people who are creating something, and how do you bring all these like-minded people together in one place. And even at that event, I met someone who ended up investing in Rasa, who was a UMD alumni. And so I think it's just you got to put yourself out there and continue to like the same thing which Miles was saying of if you're passionate about something, find a place where there's other passionate people around the same idea, and then the conversation will just flow. It won't feel like it's an effort or work or anything like that. And so yeah, I'm just really impressed by their attention and to innovation now. So I'm excited about that, and I think there's going to be a lot more new exciting things that will come from the university.
Luke, you want to hop in there?
Yeah, happy to. I certainly go back to University of Maryland a good amount, usually for basketball games. I will say it's a very easy pitch to me and any potential partners for us of, hey, you want to go to a basketball game? I enjoy it, and usually they do as well. So I'm back on campus a decent amount. I think, as Raul said, I think the exciting thing is, the focus on innovation, the focus on entrepreneurship. I think, especially in the business world and as things grow and technology and just the landscape of business changes in general, that not everything, fits into the traditional finance, marketing, whatever the two other big majors are that people do. Not everything fits into those worlds, right? And what I think is happening more now than ever is kind of the intersection of all of those different worlds, which really is, as an entrepreneur, you end up doing, you're not just a finance person, you're not just a marketing person. Usually you're a CFO, CMO, you have 4 different titles that all wrap up into you as an entrepreneur. And so, again, I think being able to get as many of those little experiences as you can in college to understand what you like, what you don't like, what you're good at, and then using those experiences to say, as I start a business or as I get into business, how can I focus on that? And specifically, if you're owning a business, how can I hire people around me to help support me where I might be weak at? So, that's what I loved about Maryland. But yeah, really that focus on entrepreneurship is really exciting to see.
Well-rounded. That's what I think about when I think about Terps. Terps who've just graduated that I work with, or Terps that, to your point, graduated in 1990. It seems like there's something that they understand, and they continue to invest in helping people become well-rounded individuals so that they can go out and conquer the real world however they like. We're going to wrap up with one question I want everyone to answer, and I want you to think about as back to graduation day. You're walking with your cap, your gown, you're looking back on your incredible experience at the University of Maryland. But now you're here. There's been many years that have passed. If you had a conversation at RJ Bentley's with that person who was about to graduate, what is something that you would tell that younger self of yours? And let's start with you, Jared. All right, Miles, let's hear it.
Yeah, so back senior year, Sam Panich and I had some serious conversations about what would come next after college. And I was fearful. And I think that's ironic because one of the things that as a Terp they teach you is to be fearless. But I was fearful. And there were moments where I was like, I've got my job, but am I going to like it? Is life ever going to be this fun again? Am I going to ever be happy like this ever again? Are the stresses of the real world going to be overwhelming and burdensome? Am I going to have freedom like this ever again? And now, after having graduated in 2018 and seen a pandemic and had multiple jobs and traveled around the world, I can confidently say there is nothing to be fearful of. Everything works out the way that it's meant to. And just to go along with that, dive in head first and surrender to the experiences. Sometimes something's going to come onto your lap that you didn't ask for. See where it goes. Sometimes you might have to take a risk and it might be scary and uncomfortable. Like seek that discomfort and embrace that opportunity of diving in. And, even if you're a little scared or anxious, like just the world has so many incredible things to show you and guide you and teach you. And I think being an adult now and realizing that I have more freedom than I had back in college and I'm making money and doing things that I'm passionate about and that I love, I mean, life is better in many ways. And there were moments where I thought life would never be as good again as it was back in those College Park days. So while I reminisce on those glory days, life has gotten better and better. And so I just want to say that to the younger version of myself and the young people in college, you can't even imagine how much better things can ultimately become. And you can't even dream of some of the beautiful things that right now might be a dream. And one day they might be a memory of yours. So just enjoy it, dive in head first, and live it up without any fear, and just be grateful that you get to live and see another day.
Well said. Rahul?
Yeah, what I want to say is a lot of what Miles and Jared are already said. But if I was talking to someone who's still in college, and some maybe word of advice, I think in the same vein, if you have something that you're passionate about and you're curious and you're scared of like, oh, should I get a job out of college like everyone else? And I think it's the risk always seems higher than it actually is, and I think people often don't they discount all the learnings that you will get from trying something for the first time and even failing at it, and all the experiences and the learnings from that will catapult you into something else. And I think that is something when people are evaluating, okay, I can get this job out of college and it's safe, it's not really what I want to do. I kind of want to try this startup idea, or I have this idea for something. I kind of want to pursue it, but like, what if it doesn't work? Then I'm not going to have a job, and, so on and so forth. And I think when you actually play out all the potential risks, they actually aren't as fearful. And I think if you actually go for pursuing something on your own, you're going to learn so much from that experience that even if that first thing doesn't work out, it'll catapult you, or some of the people that you met along the way will lead to something else. And I think if you go in with that idea that I'm going to try something, it may not work out, but that's okay, because I'm going to learn from that experience, and I'm either going to get another job or I'm going to start something else. And I think having that kind of mentality is kind of key. And then, one other thing, which I do want to emphasize for anyone, who's still in undergrad, if it's possible, I'd highly advise trying to study abroad, whether it's through the Smith School and you do it during the winter break or the summer, or you do it for a whole semester. I think that experience of traveling to a different part of the world where you're not familiar with, you meet people from different backgrounds, you see how business in the world works outside of College Park, I think is a huge experience. And I think just from that experience of being in a place and living there for 30 days at like minimum, you just learn so much. And I think it's rare at a time in your life where you can do that. And I think post grad it's definitely much harder. So if you have that opportunity as an undergrad, I would highly suggest that. I was lucky to be able to go on 2 trips with Dr. Wellman, who unfortunately passed away a few years ago, but he was a big mentor of mine and for so many other people at the Smith School. And so those trips that I took with him and all the students were huge experiences in my life.
Yeah, I encourage anyone to, even if you're in college or not, go experience the world and travel and change your perspective, because I think it'll change your perspective on how you approach your personal and professional life. So Luke, round us out.
Yes, that was all advice that I wish I heard right out of college. And frankly, I did hear some of that, but I think really making sure that you give yourself the opportunity to absorb things that you're hearing from mentors and people in your life. But my big piece of advice is that habits and things that you do tend to snowball, right? Whether for good or for bad, they tend to snowball and build upon themselves. So we're talking a lot about networking, right? The more you network, the more you'll network, right? The bigger your network will grow, the better you'll get at it. The more you do anything in your life, the more inclined you'll be to continue to do those things. So I think really, the transition from out of college into your working life and trying to understand, hey, what are the things that I'm doing that I love? What are the things that I'm not doing, but I could see myself doing and loving? Try and just take that first step, have that first experience, do that first thing, because it'll build on itself and it'll grow over time. And I think what you also, everyone in all stages of life has to be cautious with is that goes for all the bad things that you do as well. Bad, whatever that might be, or those things that you think that you might want to change in life. Again, the more that you have experiences, the more that you'll continue to have those experiences. And I think everyone on this call, as we've talked about throughout, has had, the better you get at failing, the better you'll get at failing, right? And the more likelihood of, the more you succeed and the more you learn from those things, the more that you'll learn from things in the future. So just really setting yourself up to allow kind of the good to grow, and recognize that, hey, some of the bad things in life might grow as well. So really, thinking about that and evaluating that.
It's, I guess, a little scary that now we all are old enough to give our younger self advice, because sometimes I still feel like that younger self. I don't know about you guys, but I think all that guidance is so valuable for, the junior us, but even folks listening at home and even some alumni that are listening to this and are maybe trying to make some big decisions. So thank you guys for getting so vulnerable and sharing ways that we can elevate our mindsets. Smith School, thank you for this incredible opportunity for the University of Maryland so that we could bring together this great group of gentlemen, all in the world of hospitality. This was a really cool Smith alumni spotlight, hopefully the first of many. Jared Nozick, thank you for bringing us all together, and we can't wait to see you on the next alumni spotlight. Till next time.
Thanks, everyone.